This is probably the most overlooked way to introduce stress. And it sort of happens by default, you know, when you're out on the range with a group, whether that's in a workshop or on a range day or with your buddies or family or whatever. And that is the added stress of peer pressure, right? And just having your peers around, knowing you're being evaluated, whether that's, you know, again, by an instructor, if it's in a private lesson or in a group lesson or whatever the case, but also your buddies, right? Yeah. Add that to the timer piece, right? And everybody sort of starts to compete at some level. Again, going back to the whole CrossFit analogy and, you know, am I better than this guy or is he better than me? You know, whatever. The peer pressure piece adds a certain level, can add a major level of stress to that environment that can have its pros and cons as well.
No, definitely. I have a lot of experience with this in the firearms world, obviously in CrossFit too, but I guess I just take it less serious as an athlete. But in the firearms world, man, I really see it. Like, I've been to so many courses, so many range days with buddies where it doesn't matter timer or not, which obviously with a timer, it's a little bit more effective. But running one by one and having the entire group of people, whether it's buddies or an actual course that you're at, watch you. For one, you don't want to fuck up.
Yeah, nobody wants to fuck that guy.
Nobody wants to be everybody's eyes on you, and then you fuck up, and then it gets worse because you keep fucking up. I've seen that happen where somebody fumbles, and then they're just like, "Oh shit, I fumbled," and then like we want to give up, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "No, you got to finish it out," and then they fumble more, and it's just this whole fucking thing. But also, that's kind of like a healthy added stressor because, like, as long as it's encouraged with, like, you know, real like team effort, like we're trying to make each other better, it's not like shit talking, right? You know what I mean? Then it's actually good, like a good stressor to add. I've seen better shooters than me, like clearly better shooters than me,
just fall apart.
I beat them at certain drills where there's like a lot of movement and things like that. And there's a couple things that go into that. I'd say for this example though, maybe it was a little bit of physical stress, but I would have to say that the timer and everybody watching you, as soon as you make one mistake, that one mistake just leads into like a snowball because you feel really bad or really flustered because guess what? Everybody's watching you.
Yes, I think your point there is from a peer's perspective or a peer pressure perspective, we're using the pressure as most people might think of that as like a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. The pressure that you're feeling is a good pressure to perform and want to do well. That's good. There's a drive there. That's to be acknowledged and celebrated. I want to do well here. And feeling that pressure internally and then feeling that pressure maybe externally as well. So intrinsic versus the extrinsic from the team, from the group, right? And entering into that, like we're all in this together. Our safety is dependent on that. Our growth is dependent on that. And, you know, having those layers kind of stack up, if everybody's in that mindset, right? Again, the peer group is working together, then it's likely that all those levels of things that happened, right, that created another problem on top of another problem on top of another problem for you that were out there, don't all of a sudden become completely overwhelming. And maybe an example of that is, you know, we were out the other day and a guy was having a little bit of a trouble with his weapons, fairly unfamiliar weapon to him. And he was, pistol, and he was really struggling mechanically with it. And, I was just kind of watching him go through it. And the last thing this guy needed to do is feel like he should be rushed at that point. Right. So, the line that we were working in and the people that were around were just kind of gathered around and go, that's cool, man. Let's just continue to work the problem, go through your checklist. So that peer pressure very quickly can turn into like peer help, right? And support. And versus like, we're not racing this thing. But my point of this whole thing and layering on the peer pressure, I think is an overlooked thing that can be very valuable, but can also be very destructive if it's not managed correctly. I guess the tone or the expectation at the beginning of the day or within your group or the beginning of the class or whatever the case isn't kind of the groundwork.
The tone and the energy, the type of energy you're putting off, that matters. Like when I first started shooting, I bought a G17 and I first started like really trying to like get to the range on a regular basis, just whatever indoor range, just work on marksmanship because that's all I had available at the time. Dude, I had a friend that just would talk so much shit, dude. so much shit. And like, it got to me, man. I guess you could say like I was weak in the moment for letting like this guy be like, man, you're not hitting shit, this and that. You know what I mean? And like, dude, it would like ruin my training sessions.
You're right.
Right. And so like there's a power, negative and positive through that. Right. So we're talking about peer pressure, but it should be like camaraderie. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be like, dude, like talk shit the whole time, especially when you're dealing with people with firearms. Probably don't piss off your friends. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of weight in this and how you approach it. Like I said, it could be very good and informative to have everybody around you watching too.
Yeah.
Right. Because like everybody's like, well, fuck, for themselves and for you.
So embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Embrace that pressure.
Yeah.
Because there's things that are happening there in that pressure that, or in that moment that could be replicated in a different type of uncontrolled environment, right? Or a different environment. I mean, what happens when that peer pressure is there? You know, you're being pressure to perform. You know, you're being watched. You know, you're being evaluated. Again, that raises anxiety levels. There could be some hormonal changes that are going on in that very moment, right? Could be some physiological changes from a heart rate perspective, right? That the heart rate starts to go up a little bit, right? Your muscles tense up a little bit. You start to feel a little bit more stiff. These are the same fucking things that happen to people when they get caught in a disaster or in a very, very like tragic or dangerous situation. So the more you can condition your body, right, and your mind, right, and your mindset through this type of sort of peer pressure, again, knowing that you're in a safe space, like, and I've heard this referred to as like you set the container of safety in that training. At the same time, you don't let people get away with shit. So if it becomes that peer pressure, could also become like, hey, get your shit together. We're not fucking around. Like, you're dicking around. Like, this isn't cool, man. We're all out. This is serious. We're all out here trying to get better, and you're not. This isn't the time or place for that. I think it can be valuable. It can be a huge pro in that peer pressure when that container is set, when that tone is set, and everybody being on the same page right from the get go.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much benefit to it, man.